Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so if you live on this planet long enough, you'll find quickly that life is all about your first. Your first kiss, your first job, your first girlfriend, ultimately leading to your first... yeah. But anyways, this one is an absolute first for me. This is going to be the very first console generation that's going to have a mid-life cycle and basically a refurbish to kind of get the hardware up to date to where publishers, developers want the hardware to be. Kind of just like the small step in between consoles, not jumping to the next generation, but at the same time kind of just keeping things a little bit familiar. So this is the PlayStation 4 Pro, and in today's video I'm going to be unboxing it for you guys, and I'm going to give you guys my general impressions and recommendations if you guys should pick it up or not. So hopefully you enjoy the video. Alright, so before we actually get to the unboxing, tearing this thing open and seeing what it's all about in the inside, there's just some transparency stuff that I need to go over with you guys. You guys know me, I'm always very transparent with you guys. And nowadays it's actually required by the FTC. So this PlayStation 4 Pro was not purchased by me, it was actually sent to me directly from Sony. So they contacted me and said that, do you want a PlayStation 4 Pro for review purposes? I said yes, and lo and behold, we have this console in front of us for you guys to check out. I'm not getting paid any sort of secondary money for any further videos or this video or anything else in the future. It's basically a free console for review purposes. So yeah, other than that, enjoy the rest of the video. Alright, so we have the box here. It's pretty simplistic. It has the traditional PlayStation blue, the exact same PlayStation 4 logo, just tack on that little Pro at the very end over there. So much better this text than the old Spider-Man text from the PlayStation 3 days. I'm very glad they made the swap over. So this is a 1 terabyte model. It's basically just the console itself. It does not come with any sort of video games. And let's break the seal and unbox her as we go. So there's a PlayStation 4 logo on the very top as you flip open the first tab. Pull this out here, white box in the middle with the outside sleeve. Nice white box in the middle. Then we have a user manual right here, which we will not need because we are not noobs. Then we got the console itself. Pretty much a no-frills approach to packaging. I would have preferred a soft foam rather than cardboard, just to protect the console a little bit better. Soft foam costs a little bit more money, so I guess. Then we have another box which has all the accessories that are spilling all over the place. We'll put the white box over to the side now. In this white box, we'll slide this over. Got a tab here which houses, I'm assuming, the controller. There we go. And an HDMI cord. Alright, so everything out of the box, this is what it all looks like, a gigantic pile mess of shrink wrap and plastic. So let's get everything unwrapped and I'll go over everything piece by piece. Alright, so now that we have everything out of the box, let's go through the small stuff really quickly. So you get an HDMI cable, which is nice, even though you probably have like a million of these by now. You also have a charging cable, a micro USB charging cable for the PlayStation controller. You get this power cable, which is very surprising. It's much larger than the traditional PlayStation 4 charging cable that we're used to. I'm assuming that's probably because the GPU is drawing in more power than the previous models, so that's probably the reason why they've increased the size. So that's probably the biggest notice of change that I've seen so far. And you also get the standard default, please do not use this if you can, but it will work in a pinch if you need a microphone very quickly online, the default earbud and microphone. I would highly suggest you probably not use this because it sounds like you're talking into a Velcro mic, but if you are in a pinch, it is useful. And I guess it is useful if you are using it for a cell phone, unless you have a new iPhone, because these things don't work anymore without the adapter. Rest in peace. Anyways, and then we also get the controller, which is still to this day probably my favorite controller of all time. It is the most universal controller, I personally think, of playing every type of game. FPSs, RPGs, it all just feels very comfortable. I'm so glad they upgraded from that very flimsy PlayStation 3 design. And the only thing I would say is, though, I really wish Sony would step up and offer their own variant of a Pro controller that is officially licensed, kind of like the Xbox Elite controller. It's kind of expensive, but I think as consumers, we like to have lots of options. So if I were to say one thing to Sony, pump out your own Elite controller and make it rain the money, because people will pay anything for those things, because even like the third-party ones, they cost a lot, and if you can make your own, then. All right, so time for the main event and the reason why you guys are here, which is the console itself. So upon first glimpse, as you can probably tell, it doesn't, in terms of design, stray too much away from the formula of the original PlayStation 4 that released several years ago. But funny enough, the most radical design was actually for the PlayStation 4 Slim, which I don't have, but anyway. So as you can see, if you put them side by side, they look fairly similar, and it's just a little bit larger. And if you, when it was first shown, the internet was just full of memes. It basically said it's a Big Mac version of the original PlayStation 4 because they added a middle section, which it's not that too far off. But personally myself, I do like it because I enjoy the look of the PlayStation 4 originally, and just some small differences that they've made. So first off, the entire thing is now a nice, clean, matte black. With the original PlayStation 4, you have this one section, even though I'm touching it right now, no one wanted to touch because it's polished. It's a fingerprint magnet, and instead of having that one small polished section, they do now just have one matte, sexy black finish the entire way through. As stated earlier, it now has this small middle section, or it's not small, but this middle section that was added, I'm assuming, to fit in a larger GPU, and the corners are now rounded. They're not as pointy as they were before, so you won't cut yourself picking up the console. And on the bottom of the console, you notice that the feet are actually, these are the small details that I always enjoy. The feet are actually the iconic face buttons of the PlayStation controller, the X, the triangle, the square, the circle. And on the front, you have the Sony logo on the top left, the PlayStation 4 logo on the top right. You have two super speed USB 3.0 ports on the front. And then when we move to the back, actually, while we're still on the front, the eject button is now located on the bottom right, and the power button is located on the bottom left, somewhat hidden. The disc tray is located directly on the first hole right here, directly underneath the Sony logo. So once again, I had the most difficult time locating the disc tray when the original PlayStation 4 came out. So, well, this time around, I was able to put two and two together and probably decided they probably hit it once again. So it's nice that they hit it. So on the top and bottom, you'll find the same large PlayStation logo, which I do appreciate. It's with this reflective finish to it. And instead of like in the original PlayStation 4 where they kind of had the console divided into sections and smaller logos everywhere, they just have one large logo, which gives it, I think personally myself, I prefer it because it's a much cleaner look in my opinion. And moving on to the back. So on the back, in terms of rear I/O, you have the much larger power cable, which like I talked about earlier. You have an HDMI out, you have a hole for, or connector for the PlayStation Eye. You have an optical out, which is something that is missing in the PlayStation Slim version. It's in the PlayStation 4 original, but the Slim version, they took away the optical port, which I think is a real mistake because a lot of us have like these mix amps like Asteroid 40s or separate mix amps for the audio. And a lot of the time they require an optical out. So I think personally myself, that would have been a deal breaker. If I was in the market for PlayStation 4 Slim, that I wouldn't got it because it doesn't have an optical out port. And then you also have, once again, another super speed USB 3 on the back, and then a hardwired network port as well. All right, so about the halfway point of this video, I decided that this first video is just gonna be an unboxing video because I literally just unboxed this thing and I booted it up, set it up, and kind of played around with it a tiny bit. But I still don't think that is long enough for a final interpretation and impressions of what this console is all about. So for this first video, it's just gonna be a straight unboxing, taking a look, first-hand impressions of what it looks like. And in the next video, I'll give you guys my final impressions and reviews. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the unboxing. Sorry I couldn't offer you a valid review and first impressions right out of the gate, but I think you guys will appreciate it if I just take a little bit more time, and probably in about a week, and then I'll give you guys my final thoughts. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. As always, if you enjoyed, drop the video a quick thumbs up, and I shall see you guys next time, right? As always, have a fast day.